The 2023 wide receiver class is as divisive as any position group in this class. There really is no consensus, but today I'm going to take you through my top 10 wide receivers as we approach the NFL Combine in a couple of weeks. Let's get into it. What is up, everybody? Welcome back for another edition of 2023 NFL Draft Prospect Profiles. Once again, I'm doing things a little bit differently. A few weeks ago, I decided to do an all-encompassing running back episode. Kind of got back into just doing a specific prospect, but I was going through the list of people that you guys wanted to see, and a lot of them were wide receivers in this class that I have not yet touched on in this series. So if you like what you're watching, make sure you like, make sure you're subscribed. We drop a video every day. Kevin and Jay are killing it right now. And leave a comment. Let me know who you want me to talk about next, because as I do these broad position group ones, I run out of guys to talk about. Though there are some wide receivers that do not make my top 10 that I would like to talk about in the future. But today, it's important to remember. So I'm on record saying that the 2023 wide receiver class is a weaker position group. And I want to put some context behind that, because I think what we've seen over the last few years is wide receivers come at a premium. We saw the Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle draft where guys were going in the top 5 and 6. We've seen now Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, that group. Jameson Williams went really high. Um, there's just a ton of guys that have gone very early in drafts, and we're not going to see that this year. There's no consensus among the top groups, and there's definitely different flavors for what teams are looking for, and that's a good thing. I don't think that the class is bad. I just don't think it's as good as maybe the last few years. But we're going to go 10 to 1 today because I want to leave you all in suspense. So, number 10 for me, Marvin Mims. This is a kid that's kind of been forgotten about a little bit. Uh, Kid 5'11, 177 out of Oklahoma, one of the more decorated high school wide receiver prospects. Very good athlete, a guy that can really stretch the field and get vertical. But I also think that he can work underneath a little bit more than he was used at Oklahoma. He was incredibly productive over the course of his career at Oklahoma. Looks like a day two pick, and a guy that I'm intrigued by. I'm interested to see what his role at the NFL level is, but he just has consistently produced wherever he's been, whether it's high school or college. Just a very good wide receiver that looks like a day one starter that you're probably going to find on day two in dynasty drafts. He's a really, really good value right now. Number 9, Rashee Rice. I have hopped on the train of Jeff Bell in knocking Rashee Rice a little bit for the lack of size that we found out about at the Senior Bowl, and then the consistent struggles with press coverage. But overall, Rashee Rice is a good jump ball receiver. He definitely wins at the catch point. My comp for him, I wrote a comp picks article for Football Guys. You can go check that out on the website still. But my comp is Michael Gallup. I think that there's some explosiveness to his routes. I think a lot of people get concerned because he doesn't have clear separation all the time, but he's got consistent good hands. He attacks the ball really well. I think he's a fine athlete. I don't think he's going to blow anyone away with his athleticism. He's a good yak player as well, and he's more physical than you'd expect. There are a few clips floating around on Twitter where he gets pushed off the field. Things like that happen. That happened to Jamar Chase as he was entering his draft. So Rashee Rice, another guy I think is an NFL starter, but I don't think that he's going to provide, legit wide receiver one upside for an NFL team. Number 8, Kayshon Boutte. I come in very low on Kayshon Boutte mostly because of the concerns, question marks, things like that. I did break him down in a prospect profile already, so you can make sure you go check that out on the channel as well if you're interested in my detailed thoughts on him. Good athlete, really nice yak player, but also not the best yak player in the class. I will touch on that player here in a bit. Just never really got better at LSU. He had that outstanding freshman season. And then after that, it was kind of just he stood pat, which wasn't bad. He's a good player. It's just he never elevated to being that dominant wide receiver one that we all kind of think or thought that he could be. He's got really nice body control. I do think that there were some questions with his hands, and I think that he will have to, get a little more consistent in hauling in passes. But once again, really nice yak player. If he goes to a team where he can operate mostly out of the slot, and he doesn't need to be in the slot, but I think that that's where he does his most damage. I think that Boutte is going to be a productive NFL player. Coming in at 7, Jayden Reed. I've been high on this kid for a long time. Kevin and I have a bet, and Kevin, I think, has already conceded that he has lost that bet because Jayden Reed just kind of blew up the Senior Bowl. Really fluid athlete. I think you're going to be surprised at how well he tests at the NFL Combine. If you don't know, he's a fifth-year player that transferred into Michigan State, 6 foot, 185. Not the most productive player, but being productive at Michigan State is a little bit difficult. Overall, good body control, runs a full route tree. I think he's got really nice fluidity with his routes. He's got nice hips. He is able to find soft spots in zones. He can stretch the field. He can work in yak situations. Just a player that I think impressed across the board. He does have, I think he has a good breakout age, if I remember correctly. Yeah, he broke out fairly early, but he's an older prospect. Analytics people might not be as high on him as I am, but I really like the player. I think that he can be a one of the primary targets for a team. He's not going to blow the world up. He's not going to be an elite option, but I think that he can be, a high upside second wide receiver for an NFL team. Here at number 6, Xavier Hutchinson. I actually just broke him down last week, so you can please go check that video out if you so desire. About 6'2", 207, good size, good athlete. I think a lot of people were questioning that, but with that athleticism comes really good route running and a really good release package. Those are the things that I think are some of the most translatable attributes that a wide receiver can have. I also think that he's got good, consistent hands. He doesn't always attack the football properly when he's going up and high pointing it, but I think he's got good body control when he is up there. I think that he's one of the more consistent players that, once again, probably doesn't offer you a ton of elite upside, but he can be a solid wide receiver too for a team. And I think that this is starting to get to the tier where I feel pretty comfortable drafting these guys in dynasty drafts, especially with their perceived price. I think Reed falls into that. Boutte is a little too expensive for me currently, especially with how low I am on him compared to consensus. But overall, these guys right here in this range are where I'm looking if I'm in rookie drafts right now. Wide receiver 5 for me is Zay Flowers. Once again, I broke him down already on a prospect profile, so you can check that one out as well. That one was quite a while ago. But I titled it Lethal, and the reason I titled it Lethal is because this is the best yak player in the class. Zay Flowers looks like a running back when he has the ball in his hands, and that's a positive. Very, very unique set of skills when he has the ball. He's got good body control. There were things about his game from 2021 that I needed to see him correct, and that was mostly just route running refinement. I think that he was a fine route runner. He had a lot of false steps, and there wasn't a whole lot of twitch to his game. He came back for his senior year, and he showed improvement in all of those areas. 5'10", 178. He's a smaller guy. He's probably going to operate either as a Z receiver, a flanker, or out of the slot. I think would be preferable for him, but very good player that I really think that there's a chance that he gets drafted at the back of the first round. I would not rule that out, especially with some of the other question marks of guys that I might have above him. Wide receiver 4, Josh Downs out of North Carolina, third-year junior, 5'10", 180. Once again, another small guy that worked mostly out of the slot when he was with Sam Howell, and then he showed quite a bit of ability to win from the outside this year with Drake May. He's a guy that can stretch the field vertically or work underneath. His whip route is one of the nicest routes of anyone in this class. I wouldn't call him the best route runner in the class. And I also don't think that he is incredibly physical. But if you need a guy that can get open quick, Josh Downs is your guy. That said, he's got surprising high point ability for a guy his size. He's going to jump really well at the combine. I think He's going to test well enough. If I had to predict his relative athletic score, it'd be somewhere in the 8 range right now, despite that size, because I think quickness and agility are things that he excels in. Good route runner, good consistent hands. And this is a guy that I think I have a comp of Brandon Cooks because I do think that he can win on the outside. On the other side of things, I think that he could be more of a PPR, high floor, high ceiling type of player for you in dynasty formats. So, Josh Downs, wide receiver 4, wide receiver 3, and I do want to preface with the top 3 right now they are actually tied in my scale. So, things are not 100% final. Obviously, I do use relative athletic score to kind of boost the athleticism grade that I give, unless there's something unique about it or they don't have a relative athletic score. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is currently my 3. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, it's very easy to focus on what he can't do and then kind of forget all of the special things that he can do. This is one of the most refined route runners in the class, pretty easily, I think. He works in zone very well. He finds soft spots in zones, and he's a really unique Yak player in that he positions himself in a way that he can take advantage of an oncoming tackler. Oftentimes in the Ohio State offense, he was facing the quarterback, like directly facing the quarterback, but he would feel an oncoming defender on his right or left shoulder, and he would give them a little move, and then that allows him to get 10 extra yards. I think you're going to see a lot of comparisons to Amon-Ra St. Brown, and I do think that that's a good comparison. I also think that Jaxon Smith-Njigba has a higher ceiling than Amon-Ra, and I loved Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I think ideally he goes to a team where he operates out of the slot mostly. I also think that he can win on the outside. I would like to see him work against press a little bit more, but I think that once he gets to the NFL level, he puts on a little bit of strength, or he adds a little bit of strength. I think that we're looking at a guy that is one of the better fantasy assets in terms of where his price is currently. My wide receiver 2, Jordan Addison. If you're looking for quick, early separation and visible separation, Jordan Addison is probably your guy. 5'11", 175. He's got a lot of unique traits that are comparable to Devontae Smith. And we kind of know now that Devontae Smith, while he is a small guy or a thin guy, he can be a wide receiver 1 at the NFL level. Obviously, the Eagles have A.J. Brown, and that probably helps his case. I think Addison ideally goes to a team that does have a dominant wide receiver 1, and then he would be the 1B. I think he does have the skills to be one of the better receivers in this class. He's a really good route runner. Got a good release. I do question his physicality a little bit. I think that it's easy to push him off his routes. But in terms of his yards after the catch ability, there were a lot of things that I saw in that USC offense that I didn't really see in the Pittsburgh offense the year before when he won the Biletnikoff. So I'm excited about what Jordan Addison can be. And I do think that he's probably going to be the first wide receiver off the board to a wide receiver needy team there at the top 20 of the draft. I think he does end up falling inside the top 20 one way or another. Wide receiver 1 for me, I'm sure you guys could have deduced this by now, but Quentin Johnston is still my wide receiver 1. This kid is getting nitpicked to an extreme level right now. And so even I sometimes, I go back, I say, well, maybe I missed something as I see some of the analysts kind of picking him apart. I see Daniel Jeremiah putting him in the second round. I see a lot of people actually putting him in the second round. Quentin Johnston is an elite athlete, and I think anyone that tells you different is missing something or not watching the same tape. He jumps out of the gym. He's got insane hip fluidity for a guy his size. He is listed at 6'4", 193. He's probably closer to 6'3", if I had to guess, 190, and that's fine. He has long speed. He has the ability to win with quick twitch. His route running is definitely a question mark. I think mostly his release package is more of the question mark. His route running got better this year. I see a lot of people saying, well, he stayed stagnant. He really didn't get better. I do not feel that is the case. I think that he did put a little more nuance, or he put some work into his craft. And I think that definitely helps him because he's fairly new to the position too. He started playing late in high school. And so I think Quentin Johnston, once we see him develop, he has the ability to be a dominant wide receiver one. And that upside alone, his athleticism, his high speed combo, and the fact that he does have all those raw traits pushes him up to the top of my board. He does need to work on how he attacks the football and his consistency with his hands. I do think he drops a lot of passes. Once again, that's something that I think he will work on. I think that he is a raw prospect that hasn't played a lot of football. But once again, the top 3 right now are very much so tied in like, to the exact T. Relative athletic score may shift those top 3 around. Outside of that, I feel pretty confident that that is the tier, that those 3 up at the top are within that tier. So that'll do it. One guy that missed out that I really just wanted to talk about is Tank Dell. I really like Tank Dell. I know that he's 160 pounds. I don't care. The kid gets open. He accelerates out of his breaks at an extreme level. He is a quick separator and he is difficult to bring down. He looks like Tutu Atwell, except if Tutu Atwell was good and ran nice routes and wasn't just a gadget player. We saw a little bit of what Tutu Atwell could be this year. Tank Dell is better than him. I think Tank Dell's also going to get drafted a lot higher than people think. But that's my 11. I gave you a free one. That'll do it for this episode. Make sure you guys, once again, subscribe. We're excited. We're almost to 2,000 subscribers. And before I go, we don't do this very often, but on the screen here, you see our Patreon listed, patreon.com/the Devy Royale. Go check that out. The 2023 Devy Manifesto is coming. I'm getting off of here to go work on it right now. We're excited to drop that to all of our patrons. We have a great Discord. I think it's worth your time if you're invested in college football. Make sure you check that out. As always, drop a comment. Let me know who you want me to talk about. I will check those comments out because, like I said, my list is dwindling. Outside of that, thank you guys so much for watching. We'll talk to you guys next time.